The Indiana Society Sons of the American Revolution, our first 60 years. It has been 60 years since several men of this community decided that East Central Indiana needed an Indiana Society SAR chapter of its own. This would be the name that they picked for the new chapter was the Continental Chapter. The Continental Chapter was chartered on March 27, 1962. In 1962, a call went out for men interested in joining this new chapter to come together and form a chapter that would successfully further the purpose and principles of the SAR. The Continental Chapter was finally organized and accepted in January of 1963. We officially became a recognized chapter of the Indiana Society of the Sons of the American Revolution. These 19 men became the charter members who started our Continental Chapter. From the beginning, the Continental Chapter has sought to honor those who served during the American Revolutionary War by participating in grave dedications, often with the American Legion Color Guard, who would provide a 3-gun salute. We would bring flags and place SAR bronze grave markers on the graves for our part of the Color Guard. We also help sponsor the American History Day along with several historical organizations that include the DAR and SAR. Our members have served as officers in the National Society of the SAR. This resolution, printed in July of 1967, SAR magazine, expressing appreciation as well as grief at the loss of Vice President General of the National Society, Mr. Herman Carson, who was a member of the Continental Chapter. In June of 1973, we celebrated our 10th anniversary. Highlights of our first 10 years were presented, and we received a number of congratulatory letters from state and other chapters. Jack Carmichael served the National Society as the Vice President General Registrar, and Albert Morris served as Vice President General of the Central District in 1974. Morris had served as our state president and was serving as our state chaplain. Members of the Continental Chapter never forgot to honor those who had passed before us. Here, Ken Petro and his wife Alma were advocating for cemetery upkeep, which often leads to discovering veterans' graves to include those who served in the Revolutionary War. We have had members who have been involved in helping and serving with historical societies and museums. Here, the Indiana State Society honors Cecil Beeson for his service in the Hartford Genealogical Library, and they renamed the library after him in 1977. We have had several distinguished men become members of our chapter. That includes U.S. Congressman and our nation's Vice President, compatriot Dan Quayle, who spoke at Indiana's annual SAR dinner in 1980, hosted by the Continental Chapter. Our chapter has sponsored many contestants in historical programs for children that the state and nation ran. Here we see our chapter winner become the 1992 state winner of Historical Oration Contest, Melissa McGunkill, who spoke on women in the American Revolution. We have won many various honors, including the 1994-1995 Membership Honor Roll from the National Society of the SAR. We have even helped inspect cemeteries, and by doing so, just that, Mark Krebs found bones that had been unearthed. He contacted the correct authorities to retrieve and identify the bones. Compatriot Jack Carmichael's family had owned the property at one time and had a great aunt buried there, but the cemetery is unkept now, and in 1997 was in need of work. Compatriot Jeff Dyer worked to organize a Veterans Day program at the 10th Street Elementary School. The Continental Chapter provided the school with a national flag and a state flag, with stands as a permanent display at their Freedom Shrine. We also presented them with a plaque to display at the shrine. The Continental Chapter has always had community leaders in our chapter. Here, past president and member Greg Henshaw, who taught sociology, is recognized as an outstanding teacher in economics. In September of 2005, President Tom Snook announced the Continental Chapter would start a color guard with a $5,000 grant to purchase uniforms, non-firing muskets, flags with poles, and parade belts. This started what was to become one of the best color guards in the state. Restoring headstones is an important task in discovering who the person was and often if he was a veteran. Mark Krebs has worked on many headstones to restore them and determine their status. Here he is restoring an American Revolutionary War veteran's grave. Did you know that the Revolutionary War battles and conflicts were fought here in Indiana? Most do not, so we use maps like this one to show them where and the time frame of conflicts fought here in our state. On a cold November 2010, the Indiana State Society dedicated a historical marker for the Augustin de la Baume massacre at the beginning of De la Baume Road, and members of the Continental Chapter were there. We participated in the rededication of the DAR marker at the actual presumed site. The SAR marker gives a brief description of the events that took place during the American Revolution in 1780 here in Whitting County, Indiana. Every year the DAR commemorates the massacre the first Saturday of November. This flyer describes the history of how the DAR marker came to be. The National Society conducts a vigil at His Excellency General George Washington's grave every year around Patriots' Day in September. Compatriot James Shoptaw paid his respects and honor at General Washington's tomb and stood vigil over his and Martha's grave. Muncie Northside High School graduate Vice Admiral Searing, who is the director of the U.S. Missile Defense Agency, came home to Muncie to visit and is greeted by Continental compatriots Don Croce and Jack Carmichael. Continental Chapter has on a few occasions presented medals to honor those who have displayed heroism to save lives. Don Croce presents firefighter Shane Mann with a certificate and medal in 2012, and Dave DeHaven presents Brandon Brooks with a certificate and medal in 2016. Sometimes the SAR becomes a family affair. Past President Phil DeHaven congratulates Dave DeHaven on becoming president. Phil turned over the reins of the Continental Chapter to his cousin Dave. The Continental Chapter continues every year to support the DAR in their commemoration of the De La Baume massacre as their color guard and giving escort in presenting of wreaths. We also present a wreath representing the Continental Chapter. We have had the privilege to work with the JROTC in our area. We participate as color guard in the Muncie Veterans Day program at Muncie Central High School, which usually includes the JROTC. Many of these kids are excited to join the military and serve their country. Compatriots in the Continental Chapter are often involved in their communities and serve in various ways, making a difference by their contribution. Tom Snook is one such compatriot. His service included caring for graves, starting our Continental Color Guard, but taught future generations the importance of remembering our history. His passing was certainly a loss to our chapter. Compatriot and author Stephen Jackson is another such individual. He not only serves as Madison County's historian, but has written and published books on the subject. He is also instrumental in saving history by suggesting that a World War I monument be moved to a safe location where it can be seen instead of stored. The Continental Chapter has participated with other historical organizations to achieve furthering the purpose of the SAR. In recognition of that, we were awarded the Partners in Patriotism Certificate. In 2019, the Continental Chapter created an American Revolutionary War display at the Carnegie Library in Muncie. Several members contributed to the display. Colin Krepp's compatriot Mark Krepp's grandson enjoys a few of the displays. The Continental Chapter has for many years been one of the main single chapters to act as the color guard at Conner Prairie's Symphony on the Prairie during the several days around Independence Day. We not only take the hill, but talk to visitors, give photo ops, and thank veterans of all services for their service. The Indiana War Memorial Museum thanks compatriot Mark Krepp for his assistance with revising and updating the American Revolutionary War display. Auxiliary member Janet Krepp was the period fashion consultant on the project. The display was greatly improved thanks to their efforts. If you had purchased the Indiana Society 2019 calendar, you might have noticed that out of the 12 months, pictures that include compatriots of our Continental Chapter were in 6 of them, indicative of our involvement in American Revolutionary War period events and activities. In October of 2019, House of Delegates meeting was sponsored by the Continental Chapter. It was held in Knightstown, where as a part of the meeting, we held a dedication ceremony to place a marker for Patriot Henry Williamson in the Gardens of Memory Veterans Memorial at Knightstown. The program was officiated by the Indiana State SAR president. Compatriot Mark Krepp set up the dedication. The SAR dedication involved numerous organizations to include the DAR, the Boy Scouts of America, and the American Legion. We remember the compatriots of the Continental Chapter who have passed before us. We remember their contributions to our chapter as well as their leadership. We have lost several in the past few years, a few who were instrumental in helping this chapter be what it is today. The Continental Chapter participated in Ball State University's project to make several videos of the American Revolutionary War patriots buried here in Indiana. War of 1812 reenactors assisted with us in this project. Compatriot Mark Krepp, through the chapter, got each of them a bronze Good Citizen Medal, and we awarded them at a War of 1812 event. Several Continental Chapter compatriots have served in the armed forces. and some even have children who are currently serving in the military. Compatriot Phil Knight's son is not the only one in our chapter, but is an officer of the United States Air Force, having graduated from the academy. We also had compatriot Mark Krebs' son, Jeremy Krebs, who is a member of our chapter, and compatriot James Shoptaw's daughter, Christina Krebs. Compatriots of the Continental Chapter participated in a dedication ceremony of an American Revolutionary War monument in Wayne County, the culmination of Eagle Scout Nick Rader's Eagle Scout project. Rader raised the funds and had the monument made and installed in Wayne County's Veterans Memorial Park. In 2020, it was the 100th anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Washington, D.C. A half-size replica was created by the Exchange Club in Rome, Georgia, and traveled the country. When it came to Rushville, Indiana, the SAR consisted mostly of the Continental chapters, participated in honoring those unknown. We provided a color guard, presented wreaths, escorted others presenting wreaths, and gave a musket salute to commemorate the tomb's unknown. Continental Chapter was the main chapter in remembering the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Almanaz, which took place May 16, 1771. It was a rebellion in North Carolina over taxation and local control, and is considered by some the opening salvo of the American Revolution. At the recent Washington Tea, we have another example of the degree of participation of the Continental Chapter, when 3 of the 5 who acted as color guard were in our chapter. We try to participate in a number of parades. The Sweetser, Indiana Centennial Parade celebrated their 100 years of existence, and our chapter was there to support them. We worked hard to keep up with the Marion High School JROTC, who led the parade. Compatriot Mark Krebs honors an American Revolutionary War veteran, William Tufts, who participated in the Boston Tea Party. Compatriots Mark Krebs and Janet Krebs present colonial life to students at Heritage Hall. They showed the kids the food, clothing, and several additional period pieces that were used during the Revolutionary War period. Our chapter is ever learning. Every meeting, topics are presented to keep us informed of events taking place, revealing and informing of period events and heroes, and here we learned of the many American Revolutionary War flags and their history. During the particularly difficult time for our nation, where we suffered from a pandemic, we continued to move forward and elect officers that would carry us through those hard times. These are the men who kept the chapter going strong through Zoom meetings and limited contact events. We have been blessed with some fine ladies who have supported us as our auxiliary of the SAR Continental Chapter. They more than just serve refreshments. They participate in parades, lay wreaths, and give honor to us with the color guard. We have participated in giving honor at grave dedications. We have participated in Indiana State grave dedications with musket salutes and wreath laying. We are a participant in preparation of the SAR 250th anniversary celebration. Here, compatriot Mark Krebs is the first in our chapter to earn the SAR 250th anniversary medal. The Continental Chapter had a contingency at the George Rogers Clark Memorial in Vincennes in 2022. Tom Whiteman, Mark Krebs, Janet Krebs, and Jim Shoptaw were all part of what was said to be the largest color guard they had ever had. The SAR has always supported the Boy Scouts of America, and here we honor Adrian Pierce as an Eagle Scout. His family and friends join us in the congratulations of this achievement. It is not unusual to see members of our society involved in honoring Revolutionary War veterans at a grave dedication. Whether it is with the color guard, reef presentation, musket salute, or even as a keynote speaker, we are often there. Our future. What does the future bring? It is my hope that all of us will resolve to continue to remember and honor those who served in the American Revolutionary War and to teach and remind others of the sacrifices made and what took place during the war, that we will continue to represent the Continental Chapter in the same manner we have in the past 60 years. So we're going to